John took all of my jokes making fun of the Texas Freedom Party. That's all I was going to do. But I'll talk about some other things too. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having me. This is going to be an easy crowd. Thank you. It is so nice to be back in Texas where people talk normal. I live in New York City where people just don't talk. And when they do, they kind of sound like angry dolphins. So this is a very pleasant thing for me. I'm originally from Oklahoma, which is the Canada of Texas. So I feel like I'm part of your cultural grouping. I'm from Edmond. Has anybody been to Edmond? Wow, this is the first time in my entire life that question has ever been met with 8 people raising their hands. For the rest of you that don't holiday in Edmond, I want you to imagine 1956, and we're good. That's pretty much it. It's a wonderful place to be from, and I'm happy to say that I'm planning to move to Austin come July. Yeah, because I really want to live in a part of the country where direct eye contact is not considered a prelude to murder. Huh? Austin's not for me? I've been here like 5 minutes and I'm told to go home. Is it mean or is it just wait, New York or Oklahoma? Which one am I? Oh, California. Yeah, they're terrible. Californians. We can all agree that delightful Will Rogers-esque Okies that went to New York, we're not the problem. Those other people are. I've been in New York now for about 5 years, and when I moved to New York, I moved to Brooklyn, to the corner of hipster and violent death. And if you were to visit me there, if you exited my apartment and you went right, there was an organic, grass-fed bicycle shop and a bar where your dog could take microbrewing classes. And if you went left, you got stabbed. So I'm looking forward to Texas. I think it's going to be really nice. I'm looking forward to the friendly aspect to it. I left my apartment the other day, and I saw someone that I know is a neighbor. And I went, "Good morning." And he went, "I don't want to buy any drugs." Which I don't really know what kind of drugs I look like I'm selling. I assume it's like Vicodin or Cialis or something. But I'm not peddling them, although I will say, it being the Libertarian convention here in Texas, I should be able to sell those things out of my trench coat legally and with minimal licensing regimes affecting the transactions between them. I'm going to rag on New York a little bit longer, and then I'll tell some political jokes for you. But my 2 roommates, one of them went to Nashville recently, and the other one went to Los Angeles. And they came back and they were reporting this, and the one that went to Nashville went, "You know, people in the South, they seem friendly, but they don't really mean it." And the one that went to Los Angeles went, "And people in California, they seem happy, but they're secretly depressed." And I said, "Maybe you're just miserable people. Have you thought about that? Maybe you're just miserable." I think there's this sort of premise where I currently live that everyone's equally miserable in the world, but only New York's truly honest about it. And so we're very direct. We don't like you. We tell you we don't like you to your face. We say you're a jerk. I don't like you. And I'm like, that's not being direct. Everywhere else in the country, we call that being a jackass. And civilization's predicated on suppressing it. I think that's what Edmund Burke said. All right, so let's. Oh, can I ask a question real quick? Because I'm moving down here. I don't know Texas politics very well. I know Oklahoma politics fairly well. Are all of your politicians also appointed by God? All of ours are appointed by God, every single one of them. It's a fun part of the media cycle during a campaign year, because there comes a point at which the press will say, "When did you decide to run for office?" And then the guy will go, "Well, I'll tell you. I was kneeling in prayer with my family. And that's when Almighty God told me, Bert, that I should run for Assistant Ombudsman of the Logan County Water Board Commission." Oh, God told Bert to do that thing that he wanted to do. We better do that lest he send more tornadoes upon us. So that's all over the place. I am an agnostic. Do you guys know what agnostics are? Thank you very much. I will tell you. Agnostics are atheists who've decided not to be dicks about it. Thank you. That is the most rousing agnostic applause I've ever heard. I told that joke. I told that joke at a club a few months ago, and a guy came up afterwards and he went, "If you don't believe in God, what's to stop you from robbing and killing people?" And I went, "Is that what you would do? If you weren't Methodist, you would just go on a killing spree?" Like, I have never woken up on a Sunday and been like, "I'm not really sure there's a higher power, so I'll lay waste to this village." I wake up and go, "I don't really think there's, a prime mover, so I'll go back to sleep and sleep in." That was the great thing I have to worry about. I'm looking forward to finding out about Texas politics and your role in it. Oklahomas are mostly terrible. Do you have like fun referendums? I assume you guys have like state referendums, right? No, you don't. You don't have there are no referendums. And your legislature meets like for a fortnight every 3 years or something. It's every 2 years. So there's no referendums? No. Okay. 5% beer though. Okay, that's good. I'm liking that bit. A few years ago, Oklahoma was having there were all these fun referendums going on across the country. California was debating whether or not to legalize pot, which you should, because you can do whatever you want with your body. And Oregon was debating like doctor-assisted suicide, which you can do because you own your body. And Oklahoma was debating whether or not to make hunting a constitutional right. No one was questioning your ability to hunt. No one thought that was up for grabs, but we now have it as a constitutional right in Oklahoma, right up there with freedom of speech and choosing a Protestant church of your choice. It's up there, which I think, I've given this some thought. I think that we wasted a really good opportunity for good hunting reform. I think the law should be you can kill any animal you want if you do it with your bare hands. If you can strangle a bear, maybe that's a crappy bear. That bear needs to get on the ball. We also outlawed Sharia law, to stop us from becoming an Islamist state like Nebraska. Boy, what a threat that was in Oklahoma. Our Muslim population is Rahim. It's one dude. He makes me kunefe. It's great. It's Turkish food. If you guys haven't had a kunefe, this isn't even funny. Kunefe is great. It's like baklava with cheese in it, and it's honey. It's fantastic. Don't mess with Rahim. He's a really good guy. I like him a lot. And then one more thing. We apparently outlawed whale hunting in Oklahoma. I'm a little bit bothered by the lack of geographic knowledge here outside of that table and that table. We're a landlocked state, so I don't know what opportunity we would have to murder whales. See, that's actually what I'm thinking is, I think that probably they were transporting Shamu from California to Florida, and a bunch of my cousins were hunkered on an overpass with some harpoons, and the state legislature just leapt into action to outlaw whale hunting. Good on them. That's good for them. Also, I found this out recently. I learned this. Whenever they execute somebody, they publish the last meal. You can look that up. And a few months ago, they put a lady down in Georgia, and her last meal was chicken and diet soda. Diet soda. It's your last meal. Live it up. Have those extra calories. Oh, all right. Okay, so before I get into the more overt political stuff, I do have a confession to make. I like politicians. I know that that's probably not a popular opinion at a libertarian convention, but I like the passion and energy they bring to convincing you they're not really politicians. No other job in America works like that, where you brag about not being qualified for it. Honey, the electrician's here to fix the faulty socket in the baby's room. Hold on there. I'm not a career electrician. I don't have an applicable skill set. I'm just a fisherman who likes fishing and but get out of my house. Don't touch anything if that's the case. But we're of course here with actually I'll back up. I imagine a bunch of you are probably recovering Republicans. Is that about right? No? No, there's no, okay. I'm in that camp. I'm not a Republican, but I am ethnically Republican. Which you can, I look like I wandered off a country club. I'm aware of that. But I don't, I can't do that because I disagree with the Republicans on most of the social stuff. Like gay marriage. Go for it. Every gay man's less competition for me. And higher property value for you. They should be getting behind that. I don't smoke pot. You all should. Go for that. And then on the immigration thing, I think it's weird that like we've kind of reached a point. I think like nationally, we've more or less come to the conclusion that if Bob and Juan want to sleep together, that's their business. But for some reason, if Bob wants to hire Juan, we need to build a wall to stop him from doing that. I think the law should be, I'm going to when I become governor here after you, then I will propose that the law be anyone can move to America as long as they open up an ethnic restaurant. I think that's no one's ever been driving through Ohio and gone, oh, damn it, another cheap, authentic Mexican family-owned restaurant. Oh. Now, probably no one here, but nationally someone might go, okay, if you implemented that policy, what if somebody came in and was a baddie and they tried to hurt people? And my response to that is, how good is their ethnic cuisine? Because I'm willing to take a big chance. That, as I said, cunafé is a terrific dessert. I would be willing to let in some terrorists to have unfettered access to cunafé, to be honest with you. I would probably murder some people myself to have unfettered access to cunafé. It's just terrific. So I can't be a Republican. I can't, because they don't like pot, and they're kind of squirrely about non-normative sex and that kind of thing. But I can't be a Democrat because they hate that other thing. What do you call that? Success. They hate that stuff. How much money did he make? He made $1 million. Screw it. Tax him and tax him again when he dies, creating jobs. How dare he do that? That said, though, for the moment, I do live in New York, so most of my friends are Democrats because I'm a comedian up there. And I will say, I really like how open-minded liberals are about things they already agree with. As long as you're talking about, inequality and transgender bathrooms and things, they're great. Talking about like math, not super receptive. Don't want to talk about that so much. So this is true, by the way, because I have friends across the political spectrum. This is true. I actually lost my virginity to a socialist, or if she's right, to all of you collectively. So, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. But we're in the Libertarian camp, and I've been trying to explain this to my New York friends for a bit, and I think I struck onto it where I went, I conceive of the government basically as a very large human resources department with tanks. That's kind of how I think of it. And they were like, oh, HR. Oh. I was like, right, that. And Donald Trump's in charge of it. So, yeah. Has anybody here ever tried to play SimCity as a libertarian? That's boring. All right, I'm going to start this city, and I'm done. We're going to let the free market order Hayekville. No Euclidean ordinances in our town. None of that. Let's see. Oh, okay, so I might do like some half-serious stuff for a minute because I promised that I would actually talk about I'd have like a point at some point. Here are the 2 points I'll pass on to you after the slattering of jokes. One is that it's kind of a weird time right now, and it's worth reminding everybody that human beings aren't actually rational. We're rationalizing. We tend to make emotional decisions first and then explain retroactively how we arrived at that. And that's important to me because I have discovered that humor is a pretty good way to get to people. If you start arguing with people, they tend to have a defense immediately go up. They don't really want to argue with you. Whereas if you're able to communicate a joke, they're able to listen to your ideas for a brief period of time, but you can actually pass those ideas along. I just did the joke a minute ago about liberals being open-minded. I do that in comedy clubs, it always gets a laugh from an audience that's predominantly Democrat. But if I were to, go out to dinner and say that same kind of thing as an argument, it would just kick in their adrenaline, and then that would raise that wall and make it difficult to communicate with them. I mention this because in all loving, libertarians tend to be kind of half Vulcan, half Ferengi. So there's much more of an emphasis on logic with libertarians that is absent with most other people. Most other people aren't really thinking about policy solutions or even philosophy. Most other people are really just thinking subconsciously about their team. red team or blue team, because in that worldview there's only two teams, and they're looking to reinforce that tribal identity and fight another tribe. And it's hard to do that with graphs. I don't know who I stole this from, but I stole it from somebody. I'm going to do my impression of a libertarian selling a car. Buy the red car, you idiot. The red car's the best car. It's not a great marketing tactic, right? Whereas I found that if you're able to be funny, you can actually pass things along, because there's not a huge emphasis on policy or philosophy at the moment. I mean, the Republican Party was, the stalwart free market party up until Trump came in, and now they're mercantilists. And the Democrats are allegedly the party of peaceniks up until they have an opportunity to vote to go to war. Then they're gung-ho about it. President Obama, I think, dropped 26,000 bombs in the last year in office on 7 countries, which is super peaceful. Whereas I find that comedy's a pretty good way to puncture that and get through to people. As a comedian, we know that everybody relates to death and sex. Those are kind of universals that you can incorporate into jokes. You're tapping into 300 million years of evolution, so if you craft a joke that involves fear of mortality or wanting to get laid, there's a very good chance that you'll be able to get some sort of emotionally resonant response. And one of the things that I've discovered that very much surprised me about doing comedy for a few years now is that tribalism is right up there. In fact, it oftentimes supersedes that fear of death and those other things, but people aren't aware of it. And it's very frustrating, I think, for people that are independents or for libertarians, because we don't buy into that whole left-right dichotomy. It is my firm opinion that the spectrum in America is not left to right. It's between people who read books and people who type in all caps on Twitter. Those are the two categories, and I'm very happy to sit down with anybody that read books. I'm not as pleased to sit down with a YouTube comment page and interact with everybody that's doing that. So yeah, I find that the jokes work fairly well. When I do those, people are willing to kind of put on your idea hat for 30 seconds, and they're willing to listen to a punchline. And at that point, you can actually transmit some ideas that you wouldn't be able to transmit if you were just arguing with them on a regular basis, or if you were providing graphs or anything like that. So I find that to be fairly useful. And I won't hammer that into the ground too much, but again, I do want to say it's not necessarily through logic that people are reached. And I find that humor is a pretty good tool for, if not convincing people to come around to my particular vantage point, to at least not hurt me. And so I pass that on to you, that you all should be throwing barbecues and stealing jokes from me, and then using those to help your neighbors embrace freedom and liberty and everything else. Huh? You already do? Great. Well, guys, that's it from me. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed being here. Thank you. Keep up the fine work that you're doing, and I'll be joining you in about 2 months. Thanks.